a lot of people in the box, we might be out of here in like 20 minutes. We might be out of here in like 20 some minutes. So if you want to call in, go ahead and call in. If not, we're going to be out of here quick. I just wanted to do this quick. It's almost like a quick hit, seems like it might be. I wanted to do this because because there were so many problems with the book club and what we were doing yesterday, and there was so many technical difficulties. I didn't want nobody, because I don't think we took but like 5 calls. And I know some people were in the Twitter center, they hated the book. And so I didn't want them to say to me, I hated the book, and you didn't give me an opportunity to talk about how much I hated the book. So this is just for them. So you all remember, we were reading the book, and we all read the book. Hold on a second, fam. We'll get you out of here on this Friday. We'll get you out of here and to shake it, bake it, loosey-goosey it. Whatever you do with your life. So we're going to talk about this. I got a few people on the line. Somebody said, who saw Shelly tonight? If you all don't know what that person is talking about, if you go to my Facebook page or to my Twitter, there was a and shout out to Trish of ADOS Atlanta, who set up the Atlanta Commerce Chamber little election discussion. It was interesting, and there was a gentleman named Shelley, and he was going all the way in. So please make sure you got to check him out, because he hung up. I know he hung up. He won't be bothered. So anyway, let me get to the. So we talked about the book, and we talked about, I did a few little things, and I talked about how she didn't really maybe like touch on colorism, and some stuff happened, and there was no solution in the end. So let me go to my call. Let me go to 214. I'm coming to you. 214. What is your name? Where you calling from? And what are your thoughts?
Hello, Miss Yvette.
Hey, how you doing?
My name is David. My name is David. I'm from Dallas, Texas.
Okay, what's going on with you?
I have 3 questions for you.
Sure.
In the book.
Okay.
My first question is from chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about the distinction between casteism and racism.
Okay.
My question is that, do you think as far as the
hold on one second, we got an echo.
Do you think...
Okay, go ahead. Now I got you. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you think as far as the ADS movement, do you think we should use more certain dialect in the words casteism, casteist, and caste? I know you use the word bottom caste, but do you think in using those words more often that we will be more open, people will be more open to our movement and what we have to say?
I think we are probably the only group, that deals with racial justice that actually does use it. I don't see anybody else talking about caste at all. It's only ADOS. It's only us. Nobody else talks about, like, one of our main sticking points has always been like, we are a bottom caste. I don't think anybody else, not that I have seen. I haven't seen anybody else do that. I haven't seen anybody else use that language. And I think we do have to, and I think the importance of that language is not to erase race, because we have said that race is a tool, right? So we're not erasing race, but the importance of that language is to show that, like, it's not some kind of incidental racial incident, or it's not built on like prejudices that can be changed with like hearts and minds. It's built on like a system that needs a bottom caste to exist. So I think everybody should use that more, but don't replace race. Talk about how race is a tool within caste.
Okay. And my second question is from chapter 9, where it basically talks about how Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany Holocaust was birthed from the oppression of ADOS people. Mm-hmm. And he went through a democracy to do it. My question to that is, the Republican and Democratic Party has been around since slavery, and being 28, I'm saying, in starting to vote, it's like, I realized that there's independent parties, there's the Green Party, there's the Libertarian Party, but nobody mentions it. So my question is, in destroying the mindset, the popularity contest between the Republican and Democratic Party, do you think that would create crack or lead to the Achilles heel of racism as well as casteism towards ADOS people and as a whole in America?
Well, no, because I think no matter, I wouldn't even care if you had, like, I honestly believe even if you had, like, let's say, and I'm in favor of more parties. I think more parties would be beneficial because I don't think the groups that exist right now fit into two parties. Like when you talk about people's ideologies and what they feel, they can't fit into two parties. It's just not. Politically, it doesn't make sense. But what I will say is, I think even if you drew it out, right? So even if you drew it out, and let's say you drew it all the way out, and like you had a bunch of parties, I still think the majority of people in those parties would not want to be on the bottom. And when you don't want to be on the bottom, you tend to see a kind of necessity of race, and you see how race benefits you. See, the thing is ADOS, we only see how race hurts us because we are on the bottom. But the same thing happens with other groups. They see how it kind of helps them, and you know, it's kind of like that old Chris Rock joke. Like you could tell even the poorest white man doesn't want to trade places with me, right? And so I think that's kind of what you come up against, is that these people, no matter their ideology, whether it be far left, far right, whether it be, you know, somewhat libertarian, whether it be whatever it may be, what happens is that you're still in a situation where those groups are still okay with caste, right? They may have certain ideological differences or whatever, but that'll probably be the one thing, the tie that binds. It's almost like we have Democrat and Republican Party, and the tie that binds is that nobody's in favor of reparations, right? So you might have some party that's out of power that says that, but you wonder if they get in power, will they say the same thing, right? So I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that breaks that. I think you have to break race. I think, and I don't know if having multiple parties breaks race. I don't know if it does. So.
Okay. And my last question is from chapter 29. It talks about the descendants of it talks about the descendants of the grandchildren of the Nazi Germans and how they felt embarrassed and humiliated with being attached to Nazi Germany's Holocaust. Yet American descendants of slave owners do not. My question is, and though it was called anti-Semitic in reference to Nick Cannon and Deshaun Jackson's comments, my question is, do you think that conversation should be had in reference to the Jewish community? Because the Jewish community came from a lineage of a group of people who were oppressed in another country, and then came to America and continued the oppression of ADOS people.
Well, I think everybody did that. Well, not everybody was oppressed, though, in the same way that they were oppressed. I see what you're saying. But I think the Irish had a similar situation in terms of the fight they had in their country. And when they came over here, everybody made the choice. Whether they were oppressed or not, everybody made the choice. We're going to be white. And I think, I think that, you know, and it's funny when you read the book, when we were reading how the Irish became white, there were a lot of Irish in the homeland who were saying, hey, the Negroes are like us, like what we've been through and how we've been fighting. And they were just like, no, we're not finna do that. We finna go over here and we finna be white. Y'all shut up and stay over there in Ireland. Don't be bothered. We know what we're doing. And I think everybody who was a bottom decides to be white and maintains that caste of, I still have to make sure, or I don't think that I will necessarily as a group. I'm not saying that there aren't individuals who feel differently. As a group, they decide, listen, in order to exist in America, we have to maintain caste. And that's what we're going to do. And we've been through enough. I think some people decide we've been through enough. We're not fighting no other fights. And that's not good enough.
Okay. Well, this was all I had to ask.
Okay.
And all I have to say is thank you.
No problem.
For giving us a definition. Thank you for of who we were. I mean, growing up, it was like, I knew we were special people, but I didn't know what to call ourselves, because it was like, well, I'm not African and I'm not this, but I know I come from some great people. We are bad people here in America.
Absolutely.
But it's like everybody else, just us, we're lost and everything. But But seeing you gave us the name ADOS, you and Tone, and you talking about it, it's just like, thank you from
You're
a
welcome.
young man's point of view.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, fam. Thank you, fam. And I appreciate those pointers in the book. I appreciate that. Those are some good points. Thank you so much, fam. Yeah. I think everybody said, I'm not going to be a part of no losing team. And I didn't come here to fight and struggle no more. I done fought as much as I can. But how can you uphold that from any kind of moralistic standpoint? Like, what are you doing? And then don't deny that you did it. Well, everybody just can become whatever. Don't deny that you did it. Anyway, I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 706. 706, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette. This is Trish in Atlanta.
Hey, Trish. How you doing?
Hi. I'm good. You did your thing today. Thank you. That
Thank
was
you.
awesome.
Thank you for doing your work and setting it up and all that stuff.
No problem. But to watch you in real time, just turn them around and have them say, Yvette's right. Yvette's right. Yvette, that was the consensus. Yvette's right. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So, so the book. Okay, so I listened to the book on Audible, so I don't have chapter, verse, page number. I have a feeling of what I got from the book. Like, there was a point in her story where she was talking to, I don't know if he was a Brahmin Indian, but he was an Indian and he was upper class. But he was enlightened in the sense that he understood caste and that it was wrong. And so those two were able to confer and talk about life. And in her talking about life at that point, she said that she said she just wanted to be recognized for what she does, not the character, who she is on the inside, but what she's like, I am an author, and I feel like, or a writer, or whatever she said, and I felt from that moment, this is about her. She feels some kind of way about being black and being seen as black first. I'm an author. And there's nothing wrong with that. But she didn't write it from the point of the collective. She wrote it to make herself feel good. So, and then all those interactions she had with people, like the dude on the plane who was pushing up on her, it would have been an incident on the plane. Because no, sir. No, you're not today. And then the dude that was in her house that she was going to pay to fix her water heater or whatever.
Yeah, she was moving stuff around.
I didn't understand that. And then when she got mad at her friend who stood up for her and herself at the restaurant because they wouldn't serve her. She's like, well, if I got upset every time, the slightest thing happened, or I'm like, you don't speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
What? Where?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, she did have there were several instances, and she tried to make it well, it's not about what I did or didn't do, it's about the system that allowed it to happen. Well, part of the way you undo the system is how you confront the system, and we try to confront it collectively, but you also have to confront it individually. It's not just about collective. You have to confront these people, and it's just you want to confront them in a book. But when they're in your face, you don't want to. Even when she talked about the dude who she went there, and she was like, I'm reporting on you. She was doing a story on the Magnificent Mile or something. She said, I'm reporting on you, and then she said she stood there. No, I'm who you're supposed to be. I'm not talking to you. Listen, hey, bro, I'm from the Times. I'm not gonna. You're not gonna be in there because this is what it is. I'm not just gonna send you my car. It seems like it is. It seems like she's not confrontational. And
at all,
that has had an impact in terms of how she responds to things. So she can respond to them in writing, but she can't respond to them in real time when you're actually being degraded in that moment.
right. And like, you don't have to be confrontational all the time, but I'll be a monkey's uncle if all those things she listed would have gone unchecked in my world. No, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, who raised you? My mom and grandmom did not. To this day, my grandmother's in her 90s. Don't mess with her. She's not to be played with. So I'm just saying. So to me, that I was waiting for her to walk back the whole Obama is just like us thing. And when it didn't happen, I was like, oh, she's just
but you just made all the distinctions, right? You just made all the distinctions about you talked about the Nigerian, and you talked about all these people and how they're not like us, and then when they start to see themselves like us, they have a problem. And then you get to Obama, and you don't really want to make that distinction, like it don't apply when it do. Just because Republicans saw him one way or right wingers saw him one way doesn't mean that he was part of that caste. That means that that means that they were unwilling to distinguish that, because they thought that because he looked like us or whatever, or he was black, even though he wasn't ADOS, that he would do something for us. That doesn't even mean that they didn't distinguish.
Right. Yep. So she kumbaya, all lives mattered, this whole thing, and I was done.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
And that's inconsistent. When you do that, you're very inconsistent. When you do it that way, you're inconsistent. How you gonna do that? You already said who we are, and you brought up black immigrants, you brought up Obama, how you gonna now just come? I mean, you brought up all these other people before Obama. How you gonna be just like when you get to Obama, make it like, oh, we're kind of all? No, it doesn't make sense to do it that way. What are you doing? So you're right. Yeah.
Sense. But I get from where her point of view why she did it that way, because it was about her. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, fam. Appreciate you calling in. Thank you for the night. I appreciate that. Have a good one. All right, fam. I am going to 415. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what are your thoughts?
Hello. Hi.
What's going on, 415?
This is Joey in San Jose, California.
Hey.
And what was that?
I said, hey.
Hey. I'm glad I got through. I had like a previous caller. I did the audiobook thing because I like to just hear a few times and then kind of. But I've learned some new things in the book. I thought the whole section on Albert Einstein, a part of the NAACP, I thought that was very enlightening. But they always kind of, I never heard of that. I didn't even know he dealt with black folks like that.
Yeah.
And also how he let the black opera singer, I think, stay at his house when she wasn't allowed at the hotel. I thought he was, to me, a model, white person that, hey, more white people should be like that. This is a good lesson.
But are we talking about a model white person when we talk about like somebody who come through an oppressive, because you gotta understand, like when you talk like like every other group, they became white in a sense, right? So when you're talking about like just having come out of that oppression and you can see how there would be a lens there, right? That where you would see a similarity between what you went through and what ADOS went through. It's almost like once you're far removed from that, you don't see yourself as that anymore, or as an oppressed people anymore after you become white. So you don't offer that anymore because we don't see that as much anymore, right?
Well, I think. I think with Albert Einstein, he saw that he was oppressed, and he still was trying to help out, or kind of he recognized that the racism in America was wrong. So I like that part, that he was that part in the book, but a lot of other things in the book I thought was kind of all the the stories about this wrong thing happened, because we've been through a lot of the books and that they kind of all covered that issue before.
Okay.
That last book, I think, what was the name of it? It was like Black America. That was my favorite book because it was just kind of like, really neutral. I mean, it just was more data. You know.
Yeah, the Immigrants in America. That book, The Immigrants in America, talking about that book.
Yeah, that book was good because it was data, and I mean, because sometimes all those hard stories are kind of, stressful mentally, reading about that, after so long. So it was a nice break not to have all those stories, like back to back of black people, ADOS being oppressed and, all these, things that happen to us. So and I would say this book had that element to it. But I think the one thing the book kind of showed that was kind of like maybe a solution was how they were talking about how if you were in Germany, if you had any type of affiliation with Nazis or you were automatically shunned. And I'm thinking if we did that to people who had any affiliation with the Confederate flag, or maybe we could pick that up, Or
if we did it, or if we done it back then, after the Civil War, if we had shunned Confederates and their family. And this is what I think should have happened. And they should have redistributed that wealth to ADOS. Like, we were the ones who had been oppressed. We were the one in need of it. You should have shunned them, ran them off, put them in jail, and we should have been the ones who that wealth was distributed to. Instead, they got to not only live, but like, remember there was a report that I posted, a study I posted a while ago that showed like within like 2 generations, I think they had all of their wealth back, which means they had all of their power back. That should have been given to us. That's a failure of America. And people say, why does America? Oh, that was a failure of America. That's why. That's part of why. We can list a lot of reasons here.
Yeah, I remember you were talking about that a while back. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say. This is my first time caller, and I'm a part of ADOS Bay Area.
Okay.
I went to one of their meetings, but with this COVID thing, everything's Zoom now.
Yeah,
but,
you can't be out there in them streets.
But that's all I gotta say, and thank you.
All right, fam. Appreciate it. Yeah, you can't be out there. You can't be out there in them COVID streets. You got to take care of yourself, unless you FBA. Ooh, I'm petty. Anyway, let me go to 808. 808, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hello, Yvette.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. What's on your mind?
Perfect. Well, first and foremost, I listen to you a lot. I'm a strong supporter of you and what you and Tone are doing. My wife, she put me on to you guys a long
that's a
time
good
ago.
woman you got.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. I'm a 70s baby, so I grew up during the crack epidemic in Brooklyn, New York. 8 brothers, 3 sisters. Out of my 8 brothers, at least 6 of them have been in jail. Based on, Joe Biden's crime bill and all of the stuff that happened in the ghetto that I grew up out of. So I've seen a lot during my time. Yeah. And, it's, I've been in, shelters and things like that growing up. And I've had mentors, I've had people to, kind of help me navigate through, growing up also without a father. I found out, doing research, I grew up in a redlining area in Brooklyn. Been doing my research, which I think all ADOS I think is doing probably. I hope they are, because the deeper we go into our ancestors' history, the more we'll start seeing that a lot of, our, spiraling downwards sometimes had a lot to do with what happened to our ancestors, what happened to our fathers, what happened to our grandfathers, what happened to our great-grandfathers, and all of that ties into us not having anything.
Yeah,
or
sure.
starting from like zero. So, you know, I've come up and I've started, you know, working different jobs from Wendy's to going all the way to like Computer Science Corporation, you know, working alongside white people and seeing like the difference between what the ghetto looked like and what the suburbs look like, and seeing where money was being invested in versus where money was being divested in. So I've met a lot of people and spoke with a lot of people, and you know, our people, we are so amazing. Like we survived, and we're still surviving, by the way. There's still a lot of fear out there with our people because, you know, there's always been retribution for anything like you and Tone are doing. So, you know, I got nothing but love for you guys. I want you guys to stay safe.
Thank you, fam.
We've learned a lot from our past, and so I just know that what you guys are doing is so valuable, and it's waking up a lot of people. But I'm just hoping that whoever's listening, they start relying on themselves as well, because you guys are laying down a foundation. It's like the beginning of when hip hop was trying to teach a lot of the young kids, you know, that before the rap industry was infiltrated, started trying to teach kids like, hey, you know, you have some form of a culture. It's, you know, the music isn't all about disrespecting black women and disrespecting each other, you know, before it was infiltrated.
I understand, fam.
Everything. Okay.
No, I said I understand, fam. I appreciate it, though. I'm going to try to get to a few other calls, but I appreciate you calling in, fam. Absolutely.
Oh, no doubt. And so I just wanted to say that keep up the great work. You guys are very informative. It is all about the data, because I've encountered a lot of racists online because I post stuff on my business page and all of that. People tell me I shouldn't do it, but when I do speak with racists, they always try to throw the typical white supremacist talking points out there to me, and I shut it down.
Absolutely, fam. Thank you so much. I appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much, fam. I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 415-415. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hello, this is Denise in San Francisco.
Hey, how you doing?
I've been trying to call in. You had that one show back about how somebody stole something off of the Adolf entitlements. That's been a couple of weeks back.
You got anything about the book?
No, I just been trying to call in to say that, you know, the reparation movement is an old movement, and this is part of what I went through 20 years ago when we tried to meet and deal with reparations. You get all these different black people. Some of them weren't in the movement for the right reasons. They were in it for whatever they could get. And I spent most of my time meeting with people and trying to persuade other black people as to why we need reparations and what actions we can take individually and as a group to get us closer towards it. And lately, what I've been doing is when I get online, I call out all these so-called white liberals and lefties. Because some of them people think that all we got to do is sit up and run to the Communist Party or the Socialist Party, and that's going to solve the issues for black people. And I'm like, well, no, the racism can get inside of socialism, because, you know, Hitler had a version of socialism. Them people was calling themselves the social democrats. And if you were an Aries person, a white person, hey, you got all kinds of social benefits out the government. If you weren't Aryan, then so what could happen to you? As far as Albert Einstein, his history, he was persecuted before he fled and barely got away with his life from that German Austria era. And, you know, he had to leave one of his sons behind in the mental institution. So I guess after all that, yes, he could understand the black person's plight.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, fam. We appreciate what you said.
I just want to say now, you keep up the good work. Don't get frustrated, because this is par for the course when you're fighting reparations. You're going to spend a lot of time just trying to persuade other black people to get on board with reparations.
All right. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. Fam. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As we go forward, fam, if you all can stay on the subject of the book, that would be, I'd love to hear from everybody, but if you can stay on the subject of the book, that would be helpful for the conversation. And for people who've shown up to watch the part of the book club that they didn't see, last night because we had technical difficulties due to heavy rain, which somehow affects all of the cable stuff around here. I don't know how. Don't ask me. I don't work in that field. Anyway, so please, fam. I'm going to my next call. I am going to 727. 727, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, Yvette.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call.
No problem. What's going on?
My name is Miss Maid Lynn. I'm from Texas.
Okay.
I'm a first-time caller as well. I've been listening to you for about a couple years now.
Okay.
I kind of fell back for a minute. It's been a year since I lost my son.
I'm sorry.
But I will tell you that it's because of the Breakingbrown family. I've been able to keep my head up, and I've been moving on.
There you go.
I have a better understanding of the pride for my heritage. I have a sense of belonging because of my lineage, and I know I've been passed the baton to keep moving on. We've got work to do. Thank you, Yvette. That I have to say. Thank you for reaching out to your extended family and teaching us so much. I really enjoyed book club as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I will definitely say that the author fell kind of short somewhere. I don't know. I felt like I was kind of getting pounded over the head with all these atrocities. I mean, I was starting to get the side eye there for a minute, wondering, where you kind of going with this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then you kind of mentioned that the subconscious fear is real.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird because we're coming up on the Red Summer anniversary. I guess last year was 100 years, so it's kind of strange that Kamala and Cory Booker and them would kind of put in for the anti-lynching law, but yet they don't recognize how we're getting shot left and right, But what I really called for was, I'm old school, so it kind of caught my attention. I guess it was Chapter 9, The Evil of Silence. And I used to collect postcards. And, it was just a way of sending out that shout out to your friends to kind of brag and say, I wish you was here. So it was kind of weird to hear that, the government, the post office had to ban folks from sending out lynching scenes. What were they thinking? And then to try to hide them and just go ahead and put them in a sealed envelope. I guess they were saying, you ain't getting that finger or that toe that you wanted or something. I don't know. But that was just kind of weird.
But it ain't for us to know. We don't know that kind of evil. It ain't for us to know like that. That's a bit much. So go on, fam. I'm sorry.
It also kind of reminded me of the book, They Were Her Property Too, when they were talking about the bonfire for Mr. William Brown, when they said it was like about 500 to 15,000 people that were gathered around, but yet she was quoting saying that while the postcards were barely visible, and I did look them up, she kind of just was saying that you could kind of see the granddads, just the males, the uncles and the fathers. So seriously, were we to believe that Grandma and Aunt Sue wasn't out there too? I don't know. I thought that was kind of strange, but that's all I had. I wanted to share that. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you for reading the book and calling in, fam. I appreciate it. I absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have a good night. I'm going now to 815. 815, I'm coming to you. What is your name? Where are you calling from? And what are your observations about the book? Turn your background down, fam.
This is Bernard from Chicago. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I would like to say first off, I love the show.
Thank you.
I think that you all adding honesty, integrity, and knowledge to the news sphere is needed. But since we're talking about the book, chapter 6, it talks about tall people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Black people being black versus being tall. However, that kind of falls flat when you look at the fact that athleticism we definitely put a premium on these sorts of things. So I feel like it was a false equivalency for me. And generally, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. You made a good point. That's all I was saying.
Absolutely. And then as we move forward, I think that our generally about the book, what I would say is our greatest, and a lot of the differences one put there, the knowledge, the history was very, very on point. But I would say that our greatest difference is the way that this country was formed, the ideals of this country, right? What makes up this country, what gives us hope versus a caste system, versus a very religious country like India, right? Okay. Versus, versus all of these other equivalencies. We should talk about the very different realities that I think kind of were left out. These other countries are a little bit more homogeneous than what our country is specifically. Yeah. And I think that
these are homogeneous
those sorts of things need to be, I think that's what your show does on a consistent basis, is provide those intricate specific differences.
So what you're kind of saying too is that she draws out the similarities of caste, right? Between America and between us and untouchables. But she doesn't draw out the contrast of what is distinct about us as ADOS that is not about them, right? She doesn't draw it. And what I would say is the same thing I said yesterday. She had enough room in the book to do it. There was enough fluff in the book and enough storytelling that you didn't really need, that you could have drawn out those contrasts as well. Because there's a lot, you're right, there's a lot. We don't have a caste system based on Hinduism, but you have to draw out not just that fact, but what does that mean? I mean, in terms of how caste is implemented and how we're tethered versus how they're tethered, right?
Absolutely. That's definitely on point. I agree, and I think that again, thank you for the book. I think that the book was definitely a good choice. I think that it did have its flaws, even though it seemed like bulletproof in terms of the historicity of things. Once all the insights that were found in the book were definitely good. It's definitely a good source, but at the end of the day, I completely agree with you in terms of the conclusion being a little milquetoast, the conclusion being very middle of the road, hope and change, right? That we see how far that has gone, and I think that we should try to push the envelope because we are Americans at the end of the day. So that's all I really had to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
Your contribution. Absolutely.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate that, and I agree with that. I don't think we have a lot in common with the untouchables, but it's not based on this idea that we're born into something based on karma. Although she tried to, even when you tried to bring in the Bible, it's still kind of not the same because Hinduism isn't Christianity, and you have different interpretations of things. So even that wasn't a degree of sameness, right? Because if that was the case, all black people would be considered like the bottom caste. But we know that some people, or all brown people, we know that people are able to escape that. So how people are tethered and who becomes white isn't even based on being darker skinned anymore. That's how race evolves. That's because it's a fiction. So that's how it evolves and ebbs and flows. So that was an interesting call. I'm going to the next call. I'm going to 785. 785, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette.
Hey.
Joan from Kansas.
I can't hear you good. Tonight? I'm good. I'm doing good. You a little muffled to me.
Oh,
there you go. Yep, that's better.
Okay. I wasn't going to call in because, I didn't finish the whole book.
Okay, well, tell us what you got to.
I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. First of all, she does not have a firm grasp of the word caste. She just simply, and I'm not saying this because I disagree with the book and all that. I've got a degree in sociology.
Okay.
And I know what caste is and what it isn't. And she doesn't understand it at all. I thought the book was elementary.
Well, what is caste? Tell us what it is, though. You said she didn't understand it. She didn't understand. Tell us what the real definition is.
Okay. Caste is when you have a group of people for whatever reason, are assigned a specific role in society, and they cannot move from that role. There is no mobility upwards or downwards, and they're usually on the bottom anyway, but there's no mobility in a true caste system at all. And when this is one place where she got me. When she started out with talking about Jews, I knew right then that she didn't know what caste was, because Jews can be considered as being discriminated against, but they're not a true caste.
Mm.
They were in Europe, and they're not here.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me push back. Let me push back a little bit.
Ahead.
Wouldn't somebody say that they escaped caste by coming here? Now, I'm just asking you, not in terms of I think somebody else brought up that last night about how they weren't a caste; they were built to be exterminated in Nazi Germany. But like when they came here, the caste was different. The caste was based on whiteness. So wouldn't one say like they came here to escape caste? Your thoughts?
No.
Okay.
They came here to be, well, it gets kind of convoluted, because the Jews that came here prior to and during the Second War came here because of class. They had money to travel here.
Okay.
The Jews that got caught in the oven were like poor people. You know, they started out in the ghettos, and then they put them on the trains, and then they put them in the camps, and then they put them in the oven. And I don't want to, sound, flippant about that, but that's what happened. But there were a group of Jewish people who had money, and they were able to travel to the U.S. and to other places in the world. So they had a class mobility.
Okay. Stop right there. So you're saying that there was a group of them who had wealth, and like a substantial group, not like an aberration, so who had wealth and who could escape that, and who could get away from exterminations and like that. So they were not a caste, because you have wealth and you have upper mobility, which makes you not a caste. Is that what you're saying? That's interesting.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. And in contrast, that to us was a false comparison, because we were made into a caste system by the color of our skin. When we were first brought here, we were brought here as indentured servants, just like people from Europe were, the British primarily. Well, you got Dutch and German in there too. But we were brought here as indentured servants. And then you had Bacon's Rebellion, where all of the people that worked the fields and came over, European and black, got together and fought against the ruling class. And the ruling class said, no, we can't have this. So what they did was, in 1664, they made a rule, a law, that if you were black, you were indentured for life. That eventually turned into slavery. But if you were white, you just served out your indentured years. It was usually 7 years, and you were given land, you were given money, and you were given a weapon, and you were told you were white, and that your job now was to build a country, protect it from Indians, and keep blacks in line. And that's how we became a caste in this country. So I agree with what you were talking about a while ago about there was plenty of room for her to go into some of these little nuances, and she didn't do it. And I can see why Oprah was excited about it, because it was, well, like I said, it was elementary.
Well, and it didn't
over the counter,
and it had no solution. It had no solution except to like call on white people to be better people. Like, who's not going to say that? Right. That's the great escape. Well, we just got to have more empathy. And you know, it didn't say, well, we have to have reparations to pay this back, and we're going to have to. No, we just have to empathize. That's not the solution. That's never going to be the solution.
Never. So that's really all I wanted to say. Was just I read it up to about the 5th chapter, and I couldn't fight it anymore. I was done. I was done after about the first paragraph. That's the truth. I started reading that, and I thought, "Oh my God, I can't do this."
You know what? I let me just say, when I saw it, like I discussed having the book as a book club book before Oprah announced that it was her book club book. After Oprah,
I know.
Yeah, after Oprah announced it, I wanted to kind of back out, but I said, if it's a bad book, I still, or people, we have a lot of criticisms on it. I still wanted people to have their criticisms. You know, sometimes you have to read stuff you agree and stuff you disagree with. So I thought it was good for, you know, us as Adolph's family to still do that. I understand why you opted out though, because I pushed through the end. I pushed through so hard. I was chug-a-lugging. I was a little engine that could. I think I can. So I understand. I'm not knocking you at all.
Okay. Well, like I said, I just wanted to let our people know not to go by her definition, because she doesn't know what she's talking about. And Oprah just was jumping on the fact that she had a high standing with that first book. You know how Oprah does.
Yeah. Oprah gonna ride the wave too.
That's what it was about. Yeah. But I'm glad you went ahead with it, because I thought maybe you might pull back when you saw that Oprah was playing with it. But then I thought, no, this is a good idea, because, you know, like you say, we can read it, and we can comment on it, and if we like it, fine, and if we don't, that's fine.
Yeah, if we don't, too. And then if we don't, we become really good book critics. So we become.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. But I just wanted to say real quickly that this book club was a great idea. I love it. Okay. I read every book. I love it.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful.
But I really appreciate. And I'm going to send you a list of books.
Okay.
So I've got like 100 books right now.
Okay.
That I'm reading.
Oh, I'm with it. Wait a minute. I'm with it. Send them all. Editor at breakingbrown.com. Put it in all caps in the subject line. I'm with it.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. As always. I appreciate you. Go ahead.
You.
Thank you.
And that's another thing. I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you and Tone are doing. And I'm kind of by myself here. There's a few people, but I'm doing the best I can. Adolf comes out of my mouth every chance I get. So
that's good enough.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I thank you, and I'll let you go on with another caller now.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you reading all the books and them other 100 books that you're gonna send me that we can include in some in our own book club. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. That was an interesting thing that were nuances that were not analogous in terms of Caste that she didn't get into, and you had enough space to get into them instead of telling all these little stories. The stories kind of felt like filler to me. That was another problem. It was too much filler. Anyway, let me go right now to 408. 408. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, Yvette? This is Jerome Duffy from San Jose.
Hey.
Yeah, I just got in like maybe 15 minutes ago. So I don't know. Have you guys talked about page 328 yet?
No, I'm sure we haven't. Let's go to page 328.
Okay. So at this part of the book, I felt like it was kind of aligned with what Adolf is about. So I just want to read this part real quick.
Okay.
329, the very last paragraph.
Okay.
as the most loyal voters of their respective parties. White evangelicals are to Republicans what African Americans are to Democrats, though each makes up a minority of the total electorate. But the foremost concerns of Democrats' most reliable voting bloc, affordable housing, clean water, police brutality, the racial wealth gap, and reparations for state-sanctioned discrimination, as has been accorded other groups discriminated against in the United States, have remained on the back burner, or have even been considered radioactive issues for the party that African Americans helped to sustain. To those who say that this would be impractical, it would be the duty of the party representing and dependent on the subordinate caste to open the eyes of their fellow Americans and make the case for a more egalitarian country. And I wanted to share that part because when he got to that part of the book, I thought this is where she was going to come with the solution.
Yeah. Thought she was getting warmed up.
Yeah. And then on the very next sentence, she says, meanwhile, the priorities of white evangelicals, ending abortion, restricting immigration, protecting gun rights, limiting government, and more recently, the disdain for science and denial of climate change have been the menu of belief systems for the Republican Party. So basically, that's kind of like what we've been doing with ADOS, you know, trying to do the Democratic down ballot, and I think that's the solution. Yeah, and he was right with that. But also another part I wanted to talk about. Okay. I don't remember the exact page, but the chapter about the alphas. And,
I remember that.
The misplaced alphas.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is something that ADOS got to deal with all the time, because we might be in a position where somebody who is less qualified is put in charge of us or put in control of us.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, I give an example of my wife. She's the only black staff at her school. She works at a very high a high school that's like one of the top high schools in California. Okay. She's the only black staff, and she gets all this praise coming from the principal. But she was telling me, because the principal wants to nominate her for something, but my wife she don't want to get no backlash from coworkers, and that's kind of like because she don't want to get backlash from coworkers, and it's like, I know deep in my heart, my wife, she could be a better principal. She's the one that she interviewed the principal. And it's sad that, you know, as ADOS, we're never able to reach our full potential because of this. We got alphas over here being treated like we omegas, and it's like that on every job we get.
Yeah, and then you have backlash when you
I just
move
wanted
up.
to touch on a few things and shout out to my ADOS Bay Area family.
Appreciate it, fam. Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, you're right though. There is backlash when you try to move up. Like you can stay in your place, right? Okay, we're gonna allow you to be a teacher, but you still have like white emotion, white fragility, or whatever you want to call it, that you have to kind of like navigate in order to, like, if you want to be upwardly mobile, and they don't have to do that at all, because we're not there. We're not the gatekeepers of nothing. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my coworkers, I feel like as soon as they see me in the same position as them, they take it as a loss personally. Like, you know, damn, how did he get this job? And I just work at the post office, an entry-level post office position. But, yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, fam.
You have a good night, Yvette.
Appreciate it. You too. Thank you, fam. I think that was very interesting what he said at the end. He said, when they see me, they take it as a loss. So you just being in America and having the same job that they have, you're not my status. You're not my caste. If I'm in the same caste with you, that's a loss for me. That's something in and of itself that we got to navigate. Anyway, fam, let me go to my next caller. I'm going to 352. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello again. How you doing? I'm so glad you took my call. This is
Are you on speakerphone call? I can't hear you good. You like I don't know what it is. It's like robot-y a little bit. Y'all hear that?
Can you hear me, Yvette?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Great.
All right. This is Vinny in Gainesville. Thank you for taking my call.
How you doing, Vinny? What's going on?
Doing good. Thank you. for all the work you do. I just wanted to get that out the way up front.
Okay.
I really appreciate everything you and Tone are doing for our community, the ADOS community, and I support you wholeheartedly, and I want you to just keep striving and driving each and every day.
Thank you.
The book was interesting to me, Yvette. Right off the bat, and I always get a lot from your callers when I listen to them talk.
Mm-hmm.
They cover a lot of my points already.
Okay.
But right off the bat, getting a story about the Jewish man, I thought that maybe with the author being black, I was expecting a little bit something different from the book.
Okay.
The book probably has a lot of generalizations in it, but right off the bat, she started a story about the Jewish man in the crowd with his arms folded. Mm-hmm. And a gentleman called in last night and he said, do you think that represents ADOS? And I said, to myself, it does not represent ADOS to me. It represents an Aryan guy who maybe didn't agree with his Aryan brotherhood, and because he had a Jewish entanglement, so to speak. That entanglement which ended up causing him to lose his life and causing him to never see his family again. As I get into the book, I start getting down little rabbit holes of information, and I always run back to the internet to see what's going on with this or what's going on with that. She went from that, and then she went into the reindeer, and I was like, the reindeer and the anthrax situation. I'm like, well, how is this specific to me? She talked about how it was smothered up by permafrost, and then when the permafrost started to thaw, that the anthrax, basically the carcasses of the reindeer reared their heads and caused the people sickness. And for me, that doesn't encompass what ADOS goes through, because with ADOS, it's always ever present. There is no permafrost when it comes to our people. And so there's no thawing away that needs to take place. What we have to deal with is in our face, no matter what the season is, and we have to deal with that each and every day.
True.
I just thought it was very interesting. I did finish the book, but I, like a lot of other people, had a hard time getting through it. Another point that I wanted to bring up was when she talked about the Indian caste and the very bottom caste not even being registered as a caste, the Dalit, so to speak. And then she talked about this statue that she had in her luggage of a gentleman who was represented as the leader of the Dalit. And then she told the gentleman that he was the Martin Luther King of India. And then I thought about that because the gentleman had actually, as she said in the book, had came over here and graduated from Columbia University. And I stopped to think about that as being, you say, well, he's in the bottom caste. He's in the caste that where he can't even register, but yet he was able somehow to make it over here and go to Columbia University. And so then that took me back to the internet event.
Hold on, you mean the time when we weren't really, you mean the time when we weren't really going to Columbia University? That's what you're talking about, right? Go on, Sam.
Well, as I went down that rabbit hole, the gentleman who started the Urban League, one of the founders, George Edmund Haynes, actually graduated from Columbia University the year before.
Go ahead.
But this brings back to what, like, a previous caller said about the Jewish people. Even within our own people, there was a caste within a caste. And so I don't know if, maybe the book should have been named the Caste of Color. I mean, I'm really not sure how to attack that. I know that
let me just say something.
As I go back and look, ma'am.
No, let me just say one thing. Let me interrupt you and say one thing. I think why you saw people who graduated from college here who were what we would call boule, right? For the most part, not always. And not there. I think there's a different thing that happens here, right? See, their thing is all based on Hindu. You reincarnated, you be this. What happens here is that you need successful black people, successful ADOS people, but black people in general now. You need successful black people to be a pawn to show because what happens here? See, over there, that's a clear caste. It's what it is. It's a clear caste. Ain't no doubt about it. Over here, though, America's supposed to be a country based on freedom, not based on Hinduism. So what happens is they have to make us believe that freedom exists. That means you have to have black pawns. You have to have somebody that went to school and can point back to black people and say, see, the fact that I'm in school means that you're a problem and you didn't work hard enough. So I just kind of feel in some sense, and I'm going to let you finish, Carl. I just want to say this. I feel in some sense the tools of maintaining caste are different here because of what the country is supposed to stand for, which we know it don't. But let me let you finish, fam.
I 100% agree with that, Yvette. And it reminds me of that story I watched as a child. It was like the Count of Monte Cristo, and the guy wanted to marry his fiancée, so he kind of imprisoned him off on an island, and he lost all of his riches. He meets a guy who's a co-prisoner on the island, and he gets the guy dies. They die. The guy dies escaping, but gives him a treasure map, and he gets that treasure and comes back as somebody else.
Okay.
And I feel like for people all around, he comes back as a rich man with a different identity. And I feel like as black people, when I look at people in other countries, you can maybe walk out of India and whatever caste you're in, and if you can gather up enough resources, you can go other places around the world and you can be something different. I just feel like for this country, for ADOS, we are what we are. And we don't have the opportunities to just walk in and out of our supposed caste as a lot of other people do. And really, that's all I want to say, Yvette. I thank you for taking my call, and I really appreciate all your callers and their insight.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. That's an interesting piece of insight. And the thing is very interesting too, is like how caste is maintained and and that's what I think would have been good if she had drilled into. Like, that caste is different, especially in terms of how caste is maintained. And how a caste that comes, because our caste, yeah, you got the ham and all that stuff, but that's not specifically how caste is maintained in this country. Even though she made that analogy, caste is not maintained that way. This is a country that's based on liberty and freedom. So you have to make people believe that they're free even when they aren't. That's a very different way of trying to maintain caste. So let me go to my next call. I am going now to 256. 256, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Oh, it's me. I'm nervous. Hey, Yvette.
Hey!
I'm calling from Alabama.
Okay.
My name is Deandra.
Okay, how you doing?
And so for me, I'm sorry, it's kind of breaking up a little bit.
No, I just said how you doing. That's all.
Good. Hope you're doing good.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I thought it was a little bit confusing and contradicting. Like, for people who are just trying to understand how the caste in America works, because like she's making the argument that we should use caste because it's the infrastructure, and like race reinforces it and other things reinforce caste, and she forgets lineage. And like she starts out with it several times in the book. She says that slavery kind of created the caste system that we have here, but then she doesn't stick to it. And because she doesn't stick to it, like, she goes all over the place, to Barack Obama being a part of the caste and being an African-American POC. She talked about the Asian-American man. And then I felt like it was kind of a hug to, like, white women. And I felt like maybe that's why Oprah was backing it, because, you know, white women love Oprah. And I say that because she mentioned Hillary as kind of being affected by caste in America.
Yeah, I saw that. It didn't make no sense.
You know, that doesn't make sense to me. Go ahead.
No, I said, yeah, I saw that too. It didn't make no sense.
Yeah, and then there was the Jane Elliott shout out, and on page 112, when it says, second from the bottom, the protocol was strictly enforced against lower caste men and upper caste women, while upper caste men, the people who wrote the laws, kept full and fragrant access. And then at the bottom, at the same time, it reminded everyone in the hierarchy of the absolute power of dominant caste men. It was just like, you know, white women weren't being lynched because of endogamy. And from my understanding, like, Martha Washington gave George his slaves under this absolute power of dominant caste men. So that didn't make sense to me.
Well, they were all dominant caste. The dominant caste isn't split up between, like, you have roles, and I think you know, I'm not disagreeing on whether or not women get upset in the dominant caste about their role within the dominant caste. That's still a dominant caste role, though. Like, you still share the wealth of your husband. It's still a dominant caste role. You're upset about your role within the dominant caste. We're not in the dominant caste. So we're not the same. That's the same part that we have, the problem I have with like feminism and stuff like that in terms of white women. We're not, you are in the dominant caste, and you're trying to change the relationship and the relational distribution of wealth within your caste, which means your white husband, your white father, uncle, all those people. That has nothing to do with us. That's a caste problem. That's a dominant caste issue.
Yeah, she definitely made it seem like white women are equal to us because of white men. And I was just like, nah, that's not it. And then 242 kind of sounded like, I don't know, like some Pan-Africanism a little bit. Because, like, at the first paragraph, it starts off talking about the Caribbean immigrant who, you know, made the effort not to lose his accent because he knew that he was separate from us. But then it goes on to, like, the divide and conquer thing. And this has led to occasional friction between people descended from Africans and who arrived in America at different points in our history. That to me kind of sounded like the boat argument. Like, we just got off the boat at different places, and I didn't really agree with that. And I think that's all I had.
Okay, fam. Thank you, though. That was a good point. I appreciate that. Thank you, fam. That was a good point, though, that you brought up. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. You can't grab a white woman and bring her down to your caste just because, like, you try to make everybody feel good. She's not the same caste. That's an intra-caste conflict. That was a good point. Going right now to 704. 704, what is your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Great. I just want to say that you and Antonio are like my heroes.
Oh.
I'm 49 years old, and I never thought that I could change the way I view politics, but you guys have just made things so much clearer to me. I actually see myself as Adolf, not African American, not a minority, a woman of color. I see my lineage. I see who I am. And just speaking of this book, I thought there were parts of it that were great, but the end was anticlimactic.
Okay.
I'm going to go way back to the bottom of page 19 to the top of page 20.
Okay.
When she says, while the requirements to qualify as white have changed over the centuries, the fact of a dominant caste has remained constant from its inception. Whoever fits the definition of white, or whatever point at whatever point in history, was granted the legal rights and privileges of the dominant caste. Perhaps more critically and tragically, at the other end of the ladder, the subordinated caste too has been fixed from the beginning as a psychological floor beneath which all other castes cannot fall. So if we are truly, like she said, anchored to the bottom since the inception of this country, and now even tied to politics, corporate America, every system is, you know what I mean? It thrives on us being at the bottom.
Absolutely.
How do we come up from that? It just seems insurmountable the way she phrases that.
Yeah, and the thing is, but then she doesn't give a solution. She gives us an insurmountable problem and no solution. And I think that the solution to that is radical politics, you know, where everybody, like, we don't, like I said this earlier today during my conversation earlier, but we don't, I think what you have to do is that we have to have a collective mindset where we put lineage is first. That don't all this other stuff people are talking about in terms of what do you want most? Like, what is your number one issue? It has to be lineage first. And I think once you understand the gravity of it, see, that's the failure of this book. You had something that requires the gravity of which requires a radical and transformational kind of political and policy change that requires us as Adolfs to behave in a way that we have not behaved in modern times. And she doesn't address that at all.
Exactly. it just leaves you with a gaping wound and with no solution.
Yeah, you're gonna bleed
Because,
out, I guess.
Yeah, radical change has to occur.
Yep.
Radical change. When I saw that mention of the wealth gap between us and white America, I was floored. That's going to take radical change.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
and it may not happen before you and I lay down for the last time.
No. But and the thing is, you have to fight for it, whether or not you're gonna see it, right? Like, hopefully we see it. Like those of us who are like, you know, Gen Xers or whatever. Maybe you hope that you're gonna see it. Like if you're older, I've had older people call into here who said, you know, I'm 70, I'm probably not gonna see it or whatever. Okay, but you hope that you see it, but that's not the reason why you fight. You don't fight because you know. Nobody knows whether they wake up in the morning or not. So I don't even know why. See, I don't even know why that's the thing, because nobody knows. You hope, but you have to fight for, like, every generation. And what should happen is that every generation lives off the fight from the last generation and then starts to fight for the next one. The minute you stop doing that and you feel like you're okay and I can just live my life and I don't have no fight, you forget who you are. You forget what your lineage is and that you're ADOS. This is not our fight to just, like, we don't get to abdicate. You're born into a fight. So the best thing if you're born into a fight, the best thing for you to do is learn how to fight, and quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks so much.
Thanks, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling. That was a good call. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I am now going to 253. 253, what is your name? Where are you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette. This is Deneen. I am calling from Washington State.
Okay.
How are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. Thank you so much for taking my call.
No problem.
I'm always overwhelmed by how smart everybody is in this group, in this chat. These callers are just incredible.
Yeah, they're phenomenal.
So I wanted to just share from an overall perspective, and then I want to ask kind of a hypothetical question based on the book. I thought she told some very interesting narratives that weaved history in and out and brought us up to date on the horrors of what we've experienced. But she didn't really teach us anything new, and she didn't really go as deep as she probably could have. So for people who are as well-read as we are and as well-informed, because we follow you in tone, there really wasn't a lot that she brought that we didn't know. But when we think about, and I'm going to go to page 77.
Okay.
The second paragraph where it says, the Dalits were no more contented with their lot than anyone would be. In a caste system, conflating compliance with approval can be dehumanizing in itself. Many Dalits looked out beyond their homeland, surveyed the oppressed people all over the world, and identified the people closest to their lamentations. They recognized a shared fate with African Americans, few of whom would have known of the suffering of the Dalits. And then it goes on, you had read this, about them creating a Dalit Panthers party. So my hypothetical is this. Kamala comes from the Brahmin caste. What are your thoughts? What do you think in terms of if a VP candidate, if a Kamala was a Dalit, do you believe that there could be an opportunity for that person to advocate for us, to align with us, because of that shared
oppression?
Position?
Because of that shared oppression. Well, let me just say this, and I'm gonna get to your point. But I would say, and I think I said this last episode, but I think it's a big deal that Kamala, coming from a Brahmin mother, has not called out the caste system in India. That says something to me, because for you not to call that out and say, like, this is wrong, because it still happens. Even though they have a different name, if you go look at the videos, it still happens. You haven't called that out in terms of your mother's lineage, and that's a problem, you know. And like I said last show, I think she does that because I think she knows that how many of the Indians who are in America are also Brahmin like her. It's like a secret to us Americans who just look at color. But I do think it's the same way I think there is no sameness, right? So nobody's the same as us. But in much the same way as if I have, if I'm talking about a Nigerian who's doing something in America, there is no sameness. But I would rather have somebody who comes from the Nigerian slave than the upper caste, right? Because I didn't even know about this in my 20s.
ma'am.
I had no idea in my 20s this was a thing. I did not, and I had graduated political science. I had no idea this was a thing, right? So I do think that like I could connect with you and make parallels to like, this is what we suffered, and here is the parallel for what you suffered as a Dalit, which used to be an untouchable. And to do right in this country by us is really to do right by your people back home. It's the same thing. It's the same kind of struggle, even though it's not the same struggle. I think I could have that conversation with someone who is Dalit and have them understand and see if they weren't totally sold out. You know, some people come from a class just like here as ADOS, we have our own sellouts, and they come from a bottom caste. So if they weren't like a total sellout, I think I could have a conversation with them, and we would have a foundation on which to have that conversation. When you have somebody like Kamala, that foundation isn't there, and they would have an experience. They have family who come from that Dalit experience, just like we do. And I think we could have a meeting of the minds in terms of, you know, what you all went through and what you're still going through and what our do is here. And we could have, I don't think any of that exists for Kamala.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And what was stark is, even to understand, we know that there's a bottom caste there and that the Brahmins are at the top, but I mean, they're not even allowed to show their footprints, or they have to be erasing the footprints of the people in front of them. Lord have mercy. That is some serious bottom caste stuff. But at the same time,
go ahead, fam.
I could definitely see them. I could definitely see them coming here and positioning themselves, and then wanting to be in that, that preferred place.
Oh yeah, I think
Yeah.
everybody who comes here wants to be in that preferred place, right? I just think that about everybody who comes to America. But what I will say is, there would be a string for me to pull on. String might not work.
Yeah.
But there will be a string to pull on. For Kamala, there's no string. And I have not seen it. It would be different if I had seen something in Kamala's career that said, you know what, she comes from this, but like she's been very progressive in terms of her politics and her racial politics. I just don't see any of that. So if you don't have that, and you come from this caste, upper caste, like top caste, this is not like, even like she comes from the middle caste or nothing like that. That's still, not us. But you top caste. You the white people of India, your mother was. And I haven't seen you really address that in any kind of meaningful or what I feel authentic way. So I don't have any string to even pull with you. So no, I don't think so. And you're right. You don't know if the other person who's a Dalit is just come over here and done sold out, or you don't know if they feel a certain way. Like, I'm Dalit, but at least I'm not a slave, or didn't come from a slave. You don't know what their thoughts are. But I would say that maybe there was a string. Right. Maybe there was a string I could pull. I would try to pull a string and try to see if I could talk to you and get you to understand. I don't think I have that kind of entryway with Kamala. That's what I would say.
Well, thank you for talking that through with me. I was really interested in your thoughts on that, and I'm going to say, like everybody, probably get tired of the praise being heaped on you. But thank you so much. You have. I am 56 years old, and man, you have given me such a political education, and I'm trying to educate others. But it's a hard fight. But I'm trying to do it, and reading helps so much. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. That was a very good question. I appreciate it. I'm going to probably my last call of the evening. Going to my last call. I'm going to 301. 301. What is your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yes. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yvette. Yes. This is Bob, and I thank you so much for taking my call. Man, this book had a lot that I really, really enjoyed. A lot of things that enlightened me, to be honest with you. The thing that enlightened me most, well, first she does do a great detailed history of the horrors of slavery and Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Now, I disagree that I think those are two separate, distinct institutions. I don't think you can combine them and put them under Caste. But I really enjoy the sections of the book where she goes into detail about how the Third Reich went to study Jim Crow
to
figure out the social structure that they wanted to establish in Germany.
Okay.
And they came to the conclusion that the U.S. went too far.
Yeah, they
because they were like with the one drop rule. It's like we don't understand that. What do you mean one drop and you're black?
Yeah, like that's too much. That's too much. Yeah.
You know, but there was some. But let me say also, I think with the premise is that she was trying to suggest that draw some that the Indian caste was identical, or the things we can learn here in America from the caste system here, and I don't think so. I didn't get that. I don't think she really proved her point there. I think there were two separate, distinct caste systems. Let me also end by saying this, Yvette, because she got to the point, but she didn't follow through. Where she talks about the dominant class, that she says dominant, she doesn't say race. She says the dominant class had access not only to their women, but to all women. The dominant class. And so I'm waiting for her to continue that. Because, in my opinion, Yvette, in the U.S., there are multiple caste systems. There's a caste, we live in a caste within a caste, which she never talked about. In America, today we call it colorism. Most of us, 99% of us will ever see the indignities of the overall caste, because we ain't escaping like she did in chapter 23, where she talks about her indignities she goes through. Most black people live in a caste of different gradients of color, skin color, as a result of the mulatto or the offsprings I'm talking historically. Yeah. Of white people who had dominance over black women that created within the caste system another class, dark skin, light skin, all different shades. And we ascribe to those shades the same idiocy that the overall caste system applies to your skin color. She never talked about that. And I think that's critical.
Well, I said last episode that she didn't get. I feel like she kind of mentioned colorism or something, but didn't go into it. And in terms of, because the one drop rule hasn't always. See, that's the thing. Race has kind of ebbed and flowed as it needed to flow in terms of the dominant caste in this country. So the white drop rule, yeah, but then you see what she says in the book, like some mulatto kids of slave owners got preferred jobs like most people couldn't have. So when you see that, you're setting up a buffer class based on like your daddy is actually the slave master or whatever, and how that kind of proliferated through generations, and like that is something that you could have got into. I'm sorry, I'll let you go on, fam.
And even today, Yvette, right? What do we have in the? We have white women who claim that they're black, right? Because they see that there are slots in the caste system for mulatto blacks. The caste does what it does to fit its needs.
But not only that, fam. Not only that, but you can be a twofer, right? If you're a white woman, you're a white woman. You can be a twofer, so you can feel the gender and you can feel the minority in terms of coming into a school or getting a job. So not just that, like you get to like you don't get to just feel the woman. I'm a woman and I'm a minority. I'm diverse, right? I mean, nobody has really. Go ahead,
but
fam.
These are white women who see that, hey, I'm not going anywhere being a white woman. Let me say I'm black. Let me go into that system as a white woman and see how well I can do for myself.
But and you have to go into but wait, fam, you have to go into that system as a certain kind of black, don't you? You have to go into it because of how you look, but it benefits you. You're going into the system as a light-skinned black woman because of who you are. You might, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
yeah. I just think there's more complexity. And again, and as some of your callers have stated much better than I can do tonight in this short time, I'm gonna let you go. But these books that you have asked us to read are very enlightening. Give us a lot of great history, but they all seem to fall flat. There's a dud at the end when we talk about, okay, what do we do to correct this?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they all go left. They all go, no, it's not, you said all those great, wonderful things, and in the end you talk about color blindness or, there's nothing, there's no talk basically about reparations. There's no talk about us creating our own system to run in conjunction with the overall system, if that's what you want to do. That's what you want to call it. But I think in the end, white folk will do what they want to do. That's just the fact. They're going to do, and we need to stop saying when you're the first black. That's progress. In light of what I'm reading in this book, to say that so-and-so's the first black attorney general doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean that you've escaped the caste.
No, it probably means you are a tool. It probably means you are a tool of the caste.
Yes.
It probably means you are a tool of the caste.
Thank you, Yvette.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, fam. Thank you. That was an interesting call. And you know what, fam? I think we are going to have to at some point delve into all of these white women who I don't know whether they put on some tanning cream or spend a little time in the sun, but come in from Rachel Dolezal to the last two we just found and claimed to be something else. I think as there is a space for what I call the diversity light-skinned black woman or whatever the other one was. Wasn't she Afro, Latino or something? Whatever. I think there's a space. If you are not going to be confrontational about anything that upsets the apple cart, there's a space for you to be in there. And I think white women see that. Like white women see, hey, if I'm not going to turn over the apple cart and but I can be a diversity or whatever, I see how I can anchor myself in there. I haven't hashed it out, but there's something going on with all these white women who just decided that they're going to be light-skinned black women. And they've made it really hard for light-skinned black women like me. I have to keep some hair growed out because people might start assuming things. I could never have short hair. People would just assume things because y'all running around here doing things. And why is that? What have you found that's so much more beneficial with being this, I don't know, this diversity hire, light-skinned black woman or whatever you are, and frauding your way that's better than being a white woman? What are you doing? Is this just some kind of psychological problem, or do they see that they can do something as long as they're not trying to upset the wagon or upset the apple cart? That's why we have to be a race first group and be always willing to upset the apple cart. We don't want to fit into these spaces where you just cannot upset the apple cart or upset caste and everything will be all right. It's a lot of stuff going on there. But fam, we are at the end of our show for today. I appreciate it. Please be easy breezy. I appreciate you spending part of what you could have spent somewhere else in terms of your Friday. So thank you very much, and thank you all for reading the book. I appreciate that as well. We are going to go ahead and end the show, family. Please take care of yourself. Please still wear your mask. Your mask is important. You don't want to catch the COVID, so please wear your mask. Please be responsible. If you are still in here, hit that like button for me. As usual, if you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com, patreon.com/YCarnell. But make sure you hit that bell. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. That's important. And like I said, hit that like. And until next time, family, please, please, please keep it easy breezy. I will see everybody on Monday. Have a safe and fun weekend.